Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. I just went and saw Blade Runner 2049, so let's talk about that. Blade Runner 2049 is the much anticipated sequel, I guess, to the original Blade Runner film from 1982 that was directed by Ridley Scott. Blade Runner 2049 is directed by Denis Villeneuve. I really hope that that's correct, because I know a lot of people pronounce it wrong. Without any spoilers, Blade Runner 2049 is basically the story of a young Blade Runner who finds this secret while he is in the process of retiring a replicant, and it leads him to go on this journey to find Deckard, the Blade Runner from the original movie. The main star of this movie is, of course, Ryan Gosling, and Harrison Ford, who played the original Deckard, comes back to reprise his role and has a very, I guess, small part. I want to say it's a large part, but he really does not get as much screen time as I would have hoped. Along with Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford, there are also some pretty almost bit parts, but they still play a very big role within the entire central story. Robin Wright with Dave Bautista as well as Jared Leto, who I thought would be in this a little bit more since he really was kind of billed as a headliner in this and most of the trailers. And Edward James Olmos even reprises his role as Gaff for a small section of the film. I was very much surprised with this. I wasn't going in hoping for much. I figured it would just have the same old reboot or sequel kind of feel to it, but it didn't even have the same beats like a reboot or a sequel usually has. Like a lot of reboots or sequels go on the same path as the original with the same formula and all that stuff, but just change some of the jokes, change up maybe some of the characters, make the path go this way, but then it also circles back around and goes in the same direction, kind of things like that. But for this, I literally just watched this movie, like the original Blade Runner, 2 weeks ago, and this one felt nothing like the original, which I really enjoyed, but it still had the same heart and played a great homage to the Ridley Scott film. So if you're going into it thinking it's not going to live up to the first one, it very much does so. It's obviously not as amazing as the first one, especially as a sci-fi 90s, 80s kind of film lover and just loving that era in general. But it is so... I really enjoyed this movie. I can't say enough how much I enjoyed the entire ride. Granted, it is like a 2.5 hour long ride, but it doesn't really feel like that at most of the time. There are some points where the story kind of slows down and dulls a little bit, but for the most part, the ride, it's beat after beat after beat of story, mystery, twists. There was a bit of a twist in there that I thought I saw coming. At the very beginning, I was like, this is such an obvious twist. This movie's going to be so boring because I know exactly what's going to happen at the end. But there was another twist. I was like, oh, it's going to be this instead. And it totally wasn't. The entire thing, I was so surprised by the end of it. I was just so blown away by the fact that they were able to bring all these different twists in and keep it so engaging and entertaining for 2.5 hours. 2049 even played great homage to the original with the soundtrack and some of the fashion. It didn't have the grittiness and texture of the original because the original was, of course, shot on film. It didn't have all the special digital effects that a digital film would have. So a lot of the effects in the original were matte paintings and practical effects. So you really got this great gritty feel in the original, but you don't really get as much in 2049. The buildings kind of look a little different, but the thing that really makes it feel very cohesive between the two is the soundtrack. Like, I'm pretty sure they just ripped off a lot of the original soundtrack. I don't remember who the original composer was, but I feel like whoever composed 2049 really pulled from the original. I know I complained about the music not fitting when I did my original Blade Runner review for my 1001 Movies challenge, but tongue-tied. But the music really fit into this movie. I don't know if it was just because this one was more stylized and very vivid, very saturated, very colorful, and the other one was slightly darker and colorful in certain areas with the neon lights and stuff, and this one had very sharp tonal shifts. Like, it was very white in some points, it was dark in some points, or it was like orange or blue, and I think the synthy, techno-y kind of vibe from 2049 really fit with the music. And they also really kept up with the Little Tokyo Japanese kind of vibe throughout the entire film, because that was a huge part of the original. Everything was like manufactured in this Japanese kind of culture, and they spoke a lot of Japanese, where in this, they spoke some weird language. There was this guy, Doc something, that they went to go see. You don't really know what language he's talking in, but somehow Kay understands this guy talking back to him, and then Kay's talking to him in English, and the guy understands him talking in English, so why don't they just both talk in English or both talk in the other language with subtitles? I don't know. That part kind of confused me, but Harrison Ford was only in the movie for most of the third act, which I think is okay. It's probably what he wanted, and I was totally wrong about my prediction for him in my Blade Runner review, so I'm not going to spoil it, but if you watch that movie, you watch that review, you know what I'm talking about. But for being like 77, I think Harrison Ford is, he still fights like he is Indiana Jones. Like, he can still throw a punch like nobody's business. This is probably one of my favorite performances for Ryan Gosling since he was in Drive. They're both very stoic performances between the two films, but in Drive, he didn't have a lot of lines, and he had to portray a lot of his emotions and thoughts through his eyes and his facial expressions, where in Blade Runner 2049, he has lines and he can talk and speak about things, but at one point when he first meets this pleasure bot replicant, which they don't verify that she's a pleasure bot, but the way she dresses and the way she acts, I'm pretty sure she is. She makes mention of the fact that he doesn't smile much, which is very indicative of his character. But I think this is definitely probably one of my favorite performances of his after Drive, but maybe tied with that Papyrus sketch from Saturday Night Live this past weekend. I'm not going to ruin the ending of the movie, but there's a point towards the middle of the third act where Kay is talking to this group, and they are asking him to do this special mission for them, and they kind of leave what they want open-ended, so like they want to add a sequel to this, but the way the movie ends, I don't think they're ever going to do that. It just doesn't make sense. I feel like this is a very close-ended, you know what's gonna happen. For Blade Runner 2049, I would definitely add this movie to my collection. It is such a wild ride. It's probably not a movie that I would watch all the time, but when I wanted to just sit down and watch something so super sci-fi and with a great storyline, this is it. And now that I think about it, the storyline and the twists in this remind me very much of Arrival, which is another Denis Villeneuve movie, and it was probably one of my favorite movies of last year. So this definitely deserves a collection because Arrival deserved a collection. Let me know what you thought of Blade Runner 2049 if you've seen it or if you're going to go see it. That is most of my thoughts for Blade Runner 2049. If you would like to know some more spoilery type thoughts, I actually started a blog. This will be one of the first posts on there. So if you want to go read some more about my thoughts on this, you can click the link in the description. It'll take you straight to my blog post. I'm going to be posting the video along with any spoilery thoughts the day after this video goes up. So it'll be up tomorrow at noon. But I'm going to be doing that from now on for most of my videos. The blog is called The Movie Checklist, where you can find pretty much me talking about any movie I've watched. I may post some blogs just written up about certain movies or TV shows that I really enjoy that I don't necessarily want to do a whole video on. Things like that. It'll be a little bit extra content, a little bit behind the scenes, some extra thoughts on videos I do have, So it's just going to be a big melting pot, so I really hope you check that out and follow it as well. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, whoever you are. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I post new videos talking about movies, TV shows, nerdy fun stuff. It's a blast. Stick around and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!